Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Thanks for tuning in on the next step of getting this forge all set up. If you haven't watched the other videos, you can always jump back there and take a look at them as we unbox it and such. But today we're going to be getting the next stage of it set up. So that's getting the refractory coating set on there. That's just to cover up all the K-wool in there and give it a good solid surface in there. So we're going to start off by getting the refractory coating mixed up on there, and then we'll start putting it in there and see how that goes. Okay, we got you all in a close-up on there. We're going to start by getting this opened up. Get our water out of the way so I don't prematurely dump it. Y'all are getting the rainy day view again of out towards the yard, which in some ways I kind of like looking out that way anyway. We'll get this out of its packaging here. Alrighty, y'all. So it's possible I might have put a little bit much water in there, but I think we're gonna be all right on there. Get you hopefully a decent view down here, and we can start putting this coating on there. Don't know what's going to be my best application technique, of whether it's the brush or just putting it on. I think I'll start off with the brush here and see how we go. I gotta say, it's going on easier than I expected it to. And that extra water in there isn't going to actually be any problem. It's just going to end up drying out. So, all in all, so far, better than I expected. Okay, so I flipped it over and ended up sticking it on some bricks, so I can get to the top side. This is probably going to be the more difficult area, just because you got in around those burners in there. Let me see if I can get you all a good little shot in there. I had a little camera issue there. But those are the holes that I was talking about in there, just trying to get around those burners and not get into it so that it blocks any of the air or the propane flow coming through it. But as you can see, I already started in there, and then I realized that I wasn't recording, so great job to me. But yeah, we're getting started in there and getting it coated through. We really did not miss much. Alrighty, y'all, we got it all coated with that refractory cement in there. Got all that K-wool covered up. Most of it got 2 coatings on there, and then the bottom ended up with 3. Just because there was plenty of that refractory cement in there to get it all coated. A little extra coating on there is going to be a good thing, especially where it's going to be used and abused the most on the bottom. And that'll help it last a little bit longer on there, I would suspect. And then I'll give you all a close-up here in a second of what we got done. I also got some of this top edge right here coated with it, just where we had that strip of K-wool in there, just for that seal on top here. But that is pretty well it on there. Cure time on there is going to be about 24 hours, so we'll give it that time to cure. It'll probably end up being a little bit longer than that, just to make sure that it gets nice dried out and cured for us. But I'll go ahead and give you all that close-up. Hope you all did alright with listening to all those rain noises. Hopefully next time we record out here it won't be quite as rainy. Here are those top sections. I got them all coated on there. And then I gotta say, the inside turned out better than I really expected it to. It's pretty smooth in there and should last pretty good. But that's gonna be it for today. I'll get back to you once we get it all cured on there. Alrighty, y'all, welcome back to an unrainy day here. So I had some time to let everything cure. It actually sat probably about a week on there. Just got busy and hadn't had time to continue on with the second part of this video on here. But I'll go ahead and get y'all just a close-up here and give you all a look at how everything cured on there. Okay, so here is a look inside on there. Some slight cracking on that as it settled, but I don't think it's going to affect anything. And here's going to be the view from the other side there. Let it get focused in there. But yeah, everything turned out pretty nice on there as far as I can tell. So the next thing I want to do on here is rig up some doors, some way that I can put some fire brick in between there, just so that it can hold in some of that heat. So I got some flat iron that I'm going to weld to the bottom, and then some angle iron to that, and it should be able to make it so that I can slide some fire bricks in if I want to save some heat in there just to get everything up to a good temperature. But we'll see how well that goes on here. Alrighty, y'all, so we got some brackets made up for the doors. Probably should have made a video about it and recorded it on there, but I did all that off camera. But we made these out of some flat bar and then some angle iron on the front, and then I cut a notch in each side and bent those edges up, so that way we have a nice little rail. I'll show you it on the forge here in just a second. But I gotta say, I got done pretty well making these and started looking at it, and I thought, that's pretty cool. I just made that. So if you have an idea in your mind on something that you want to do or create, do it. Like, it just takes some thinking, a little bit of work, and you can be amazed at what you can make. So just a little thought there as I was making this, but I'll go ahead and show it to you here on the forge and what it's going to look like. So this is one just kind of set up on there. So we're going to tack weld these and then put some real welds on it afterwards. But these bricks I need to cut down a little bit because they're a little tall to fit in there. But for example, it's just going to basically slide in there like that, of course vertical. Have another one that goes on the other side, and then we can make some doors and create whatever airflow we need to, or lack thereof. So we'll get set up here, get some tack welds on there, and check her out and see how it goes. Alrighty, y'all. So we got this all set up here. So I'm going to get some tack welds on there, get that stuck into place on it. I think I might have said this before, but I am not a welder, so don't expect anything fantastic out of these. I'm just going to make it stick together. So here goes nothing. I suppose I could put my welding gloves on too. Using a flux core, you get plenty of splatter. Okay, our initial tacks are on there. Should be enough to hold everything. We'll go ahead and get these clamps off of there. Let's see if anything falls off. Yeah, first one, so far so good. Hey, looky there, we got metal to stick to metal. Some days, I might halfway know what I'm doing. Probably not. everything slides as expected. So I think we got her tacked up pretty good there. Alrighty, so we got the other side all clamped up on there. I'm gonna go ahead and get that one tacked up too. Falls off. Looky there, I think we got it. Looks like she's together to me. Well, we'll go ahead and get the rest of that all welded up, and then we'll slap some high temperature paint on there and get her all prettied up. Alrighty, y'all, so we went ahead and got the rest of that welded up on there, and then I went ahead and got a good paint job on there after I got those welds cleaned up. I used some heat resistant paint. It's supposed to be good up to like 2,000 degrees as long as it doesn't come into direct contact with flame, but even with that, I'm sure some of it's going to get burned off and worn off as it gets used, but it's a forge, so it's going to get worked on. But we got it all looking pretty and nice for now, so we got it to where I wanted it to be, and after this we should be able to start forging with it. I mean, we could have before, but I just wanted to add my little touch on there. But we'll go ahead and let y'all check it out here. I'll show y'all how it turned out. Alrighty, y'all, so as you can see, the brackets are on there and they're all cleaned up and painted as we were saying. There is a little bit of a difference between the paint that I was using and the paint that was on there. I used a matte finish because that's just what was available in a high heat finish, and it looks like they had probably had a semi-gloss on there. That's alright, it's a tool, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then as we take a look inside here, so this one and the brick on the other side, they came with the forge, they were provided with it, and then it had a little bit of a gap on the side, so I had to cut these down to make them fit in this channel anyway, so I ended up using that little cut off that I had on those to fill that gap along that edge, which I think it turned out pretty good, worked out pretty well. But as you can tell, they slide into these grooves, so I can set them however I need them or want them. So I can cut off a lot of heat loss from one side while I'm working out of the other. And then if I ever have anything longer, and I can still use the full length of the forge and go out the other side of it. But we'll swing over here to the other side. Pretty well looks very similar. But yeah, she is all looking good and set up how I need it. So I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. Well, if y'all made it this far into the video, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you had some fun, maybe learned something. I know I definitely learned some things as I was making this next step of getting the forge ready for how I wanted to use it. But I appreciate your time. If you want to help support the channel, you can give it a like here. And if you want to see more of my wonderful face, my beautiful voice, then you can go ahead and subscribe and see what I get into next. But this is the next step of the blacksmithing journey, so I appreciate you sticking around. We'll see you next time.